Okay, man, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Now, come on, now crank this motherfucker up.
Break it down like this.
Hello, Internet. Gino, that Pinguino Greco here again with another episode of Deep Listens. And today we're coffee talking about Coffee Talk. That's the video game we played. It's a real video game where you're in Seattle and you're a barista serving coffee and warm drinks to monsters. But they're people. They're people and they're monsters. It's a whole thing. To join me in discussing warm beverages, I am joined as always by Pete Busby.
Hey, my pick this week, so I'm glad to discuss it and to get a chance to live the coffee lifestyle as someone who does not drink coffee. It's nice to get a taste. I tried to find, per M's request, some more upbeat fun facts for this week. I think I did
failed.
okay. So it was tough. Most of them are pretty grim. But this one is about how rats enjoy being tickled. Rats are actually highly ticklish, so in order to study sort of what happens in the brain when one is tickled, rats are a pretty popular subject. So these scientists would learn to tickle them, see what's going on in their brains, and basically what a happy rat looks like. Unsurprisingly, we know a lot about what a distressed or anxious rat looks like, but we didn't know as much about happy rats. Rats actually really like being tickled. They let out these giggles above the frequency of human hearing, but they're basically equivalent to human laughter. They will go back to places where they've been tickled in the hopes of being tickled again, and they follow people's hands around like little playmates. So rats, generally pro-tickling. Bonus tickling fun fact for you. I know, right? I'll give the title of the article because it reveals nothing about what the article's about. This is from the Journal of Psychological Medicine. The perception of self-produced sensory stimuli in patients with auditory hallucinations and passivity experiences, evidence for a breakdown in self-monitoring. What that basically means is, as a general rule, you can't tickle yourself. I encourage you all to try it right now. But people with schizophrenia can. It's a weird sort of symptom or initial sign of schizophrenia. So people both diagnosed with the disease and people who score high on schizoid tendencies on personality evaluations, both are better able to tickle themselves.
That's amazing. What a specific superpower.
I know, right?
Yeah, right.
So if you try it and tickle yourself right now and it works, you're probably schizophrenic.
Okay.
Give
Good
it a
to
shot.
know.
Yeah.
No, nothing yet. Feels weird,
Mm-hmm.
but not laughing. I'm not especially ticklish to begin with. I've grown less ticklish over time as I've gotten older.
I hate being tickled. Generally, it seems to be, at least among rats and people, that if you were tickled as a child, you tend to like it more as an adult. If you weren't tickled as a child, you will not like it as an adult. Apparently, I was not tickled much as a child.
Okay. Yeah, I was tickled a fair amount. I don't mind being tickled. I, however, am rarely in a position to tickle because my significant other reacts very violently when tickled.
Just throwing bows.
I've been hit in the head more than once because I thought I would do a playful tickle, and it was like, nope, immediate involuntary arm swing. So yeah, I have positive experiences being tickled, but negative experience tickling. So M, coffee? Oh, second co-host, M Palladino, hello. Coffee
Hello.
or tea?
I usually don't drink either. My choice is hot chocolate. I actually had some today. I also have a giant jug of Arnold Palmer in my fridge right now.
You have an Arnie Palmy?
Nice. That's a
Yeah.
classy drink.
I moved, so I have to do my own shopping now. So I had to pick a drink, and I saw a giant jug for like $1. So I picked it up, and it's pretty good.
Are we talking Arizona Arnie Palmy? Are we talking Newman's Own? What are we dealing with?
This is the lemonade and sweet tea combination, the half and half. I think that's what this is anyway.
What brand are we talking, though?
Is there different brands?
Yeah, no, you can get Arnold Palmer's from a lot of places.
In the same way that you could have like Sprite and 7-Up and stuff. It's all the same drink, really.
Huh. I thought it was his brand.
I've seen things called an Arnold Palmer without his face on it.
Huh.
Yeah, we had tea cooler in high school, but same thing.
I mean, I could go check.
Nah, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
If you don't know off the top of your head, it's fine. I just assumed that much for $1, it was probably Arizona.
I think so.
Well, excellent. So before we discuss Coffee Talk, just a reminder, you can get in touch with the show at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We've got our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. You can send in an email. Let me check our email real quick. Here it comes. Do we have an email? No emails. Do we have any weird YouTube comments? Always. But nothing worth reading.
Nothing new.
You can also support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens. And you can get in on our Discord. We actually have a new Discord member. Hello, Arbitrary Water. Welcome to the Discord.
Hello.
Arbitrary Water?
Yes,
Yeah.
That's a good name.
it is a good name. They do a lot of blogging on Giant Bomb. I'm familiar with their work.
Yeah.
They joined us for Among Us.
Yep.
So
That was what I was going to say. You stole my...
I'm
thing.
sorry. Maybe we should go to the Discord report.
The Discord report. This week on the Discord report, we played Among Us 2 weeks ago. That game's pretty good. Some of us are better than others. I'm not going to name any names.
I'm going to name
but-
names.
Okay.
ZP's bad at it.
He's not very good.
Pete, are you familiar with Among Us at all?
No, not really. Lay it on me.
It's kind of a werewolf-style game. Like, one person is an imposter, and everyone else are space people. And they're trying to get a ship up and running so that you can take off. So everyone is assigned tasks to get the ship up and running, except for the imposter, who runs around trying to murder everyone. So the imposter wins if everyone dies, if a certain number of people die. The regular folk win if they complete enough tasks to take off, or if they find the imposter and throw them out, jettison them into space, or throw them into lava. There are a bunch of fun ways to kill the imposter. But the imposter has a bunch of tools at their disposal to, separate people, to sneak around. And then when a body is found, everyone has to vote. Well, you can vote to not eject anyone, but you can also vote on who you think did the murdering. And if you're wrong, you just kill one of your own people, and you make the imposter's job easier. So one of the key things about this is that when you're dead, you can't fucking talk.
This is a very important rule. Ghosts cannot talk because otherwise they will do what ZP did and just go, "It was Reki. Reki killed me." And then we all go, "Well, sorry, Reki."
You
and
lose.
then we voted
I
Reki
guess.
off.
So either ZP's terrible at the game, or he's clearly the best at it.
No, ZP will start laughing whenever he is the imposter.
Yes.
He does not know enough to mute his mic because he will do like the sideways chuckle, like the evil villain in cartoons.
Like you can just picture him tenting his fingers.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
it.
Yeah, I really thought it was weird when he said, "Die, motherfucker, die." It really gave away what was going on,
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Among Us game night, that was super fun.
Yeah, we should do that again sometime.
We should, and we will also be having a Final Fantasy trading card game night at
Yes.
some point soon.
I actually made a list of things for the Discord report this time because I had some time to prepare.
Yay.
Final Fantasy TCG Opus 12 is releasing soon, is one of the items on this list. Does that look good?
It does look very good. They have added multicolor. That's the big innovation in Opus 12.
How does that work?
For multicolor cards, you need to spend at least 1 CP of each color, and then everything else can be anything. So they mostly have increased power over a normal card, I would say, by virtue of them being 2 colors, so they're usually better on rate, and some of them have very unique effects. Like, there's a new Y'shtola, who's 3 CP. She is Wind and Earth. She is a Scion of the Seventh Dawn with 9,000 power for 3 CP, so already above rate. She has haste. If she's dealt damage but less than her power, the damage becomes 0 instead, so she can't take non-lethal damage. And she can't be blocked by a forward of cost 4 or more.
Seems good.
9,000 power is stronger than almost anything that's cost 3 or less, and she can't be blocked by things 4 or more, so she's almost unblockable.
Seems okay.
Yeah, so
Seems
it's
pretty good.
a lot of stuff like that. They've got not really a heavy focus on any specific game. There's a lot of FF9 characters, some 11s, some 14s, FFL, Final Fantasy Legend, I don't know. But yeah, it's really cool. And there's a lot of 10 characters this time too.
That's neat. What else is on my list? Let's see here. Final Fantasy 7 and 8 are on Switch in an actual cartridge. They are on one cartridge, and then there's also Final Fantasy 9, which is on its own, which is odd. If you want to pay $60 for those games again, you can now do that and get a physical copy.
I like that they've agreed that Final Fantasy 9 is worth twice as much as 7 and 8.
You could pay the same price for 7 and 8, or you could play 9 and get double the value.
It's a better game.
We talked about movie robots. We seem to agree that Bicentennial Man was not a good movie. The Alien series.
Good short story, though.
That's true. It did not translate well into a Robin Williams film.
Weird.
Neither did iRobot.
Mm-hmm.
What can you do?
Yeah. Chrono Cross is finishing up. ZP finished Chrono Cross on stream. We all watched it. That game goes some places. If you want to hear about that, you should listen to our Chrono Cross coverage, which should be next time.
Chrono Crossed should be the next podcast after this one, so look forward to it next week. Chrono Crossed. That game sure does end.
It ends in a way.
You can't play it after a certain point because that's the end.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait.
You just have to listen.
It's so much.
I can't even describe it because it's so strange. That's it for the Discord report.
Excellent. Now it's time for my obsession. Hey, Em, did you finish Bly Manor?
I haven't finished it yet. I am on episode 6. So I am over halfway.
So that episode, is that the uncle episode?
Yes.
Okay, so you kind of know what's up at this point at episode 6.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, a lot of ghosts involved.
Yeah, The Haunting of Bly Manor, it's the spiritual successor to The Haunting of Hill House. It's produced by the same producer as Haunting of Hill House. It has several actors that have come back in the series kind of in a American Horror Story style fashion. They're playing different characters in this show. I would say Bly Manor is not as scary as Haunting of Hill House. It is kind of in a similar vein, though, thematically. It's kind of spooky This Is Us, except in the original Haunting of Hill House, you're kind of jumping back and forth between present and past for one family, one biological family. In Haunting of Bly Manor, it's more of an extended family of people who've met through work. Like, it's a surrogate family almost. The main character is an American au pair who's working in the UK, and she is watching 2 orphaned children at the behest of their uncle, who works in London and does not love them. And so he sends an au pair off to watch them. But wouldn't you know it, their last au pair killed herself on the grounds of Bly Manor, the spooky mansion that they live in. And so the new au pair shows up in the British countryside, and she is joined by a chef, a live-in housekeeper, and a gardener as they keep watch over these kids and try to keep them out of trouble because guess what? They creepy and stuff is afoot. There are ghosties. A lot of fun developments happen throughout the show. They get a lot of good mileage out of the creepy kids, their creepy kids shenanigans, and the spooky house. I think I probably like the house in Bly Manor more than I like Hill House. But it's a good show. I think it's worth checking out. It's not especially scary, I don't think. There are only a few moments that really got me throughout the show. It's only 9 episodes, but each episode, I believe, is close to an hour. So it's a good binge series, and I recommend it for the Halloween season.
Yeah. Who do you like of the main cast,
Like in what sense? Like I would actually enjoy their company or think they're doing a good performance?
Your choice.
Owen is the person I like the most. He's the chef.
That's what I was hoping your answer would be.
He makes a lot of puns.
He's the best.
He made 3 batter puns while he was making a cake. He said, I need to go to a batter place. He tried to have someone taste his batter, and then he, smeared it on her face, and then he's like, oh no, you're a battered woman. But all of them. Just so many.
Yep. He's the best.
He's great.
I should like the gardener more. I haven't seen much of her yet.
Yeah, Jamie gets more and more screen time the longer the show gets. There's kind of a slow burn thing with her and the au pair that gets her more and more screen time over time. And I think that the ghosts, I like how they set up the ghosts in this show. I'll say that much. And it's also a really nice show for just like the attentive eye. If you're watching closely, they do a lot of stuff in the frame that is not in focus, but if you notice it, it's extra creepy. So while there are fewer like jump scares, there are a lot of moments where it's like, why is no one noticing that there's this thing staring at them?
There's a lot of stuff in the background, which I usually watch these shows like looking off to one side, probably because I'm multitasking. And then every so often I will look back and there will be like a guy standing in the background or something. It's strange, but it's not super scary.
Yeah, they did this in Hill House as well. It's the haunting of. There's no doubt that there are ghosts. And so they play with that fact. They do a nice job of injecting people into backgrounds and then pulling them back. And I think that the designs of most of the ghosts in this show are very good. I would recommend it. Check it out. It's not that spooky, but it's a good, I think, Halloween show. It's good to watch with someone. And it's definitely a show that you don't want a second screen if you can because of the visual density and the storytelling. Like, I think it's something you actually want to pay attention to. So, yeah, check it out. Haunting of Bly Manor. It's a good show. So without further ado, let's talk about Coffee Talk. Em, you picked this. So what is No, Pete, you picked this.
No, I did. Yeah, don't give my credit time.
I'm sorry. Tell me about Coffee
It does
Talk.
seem like one that I would pick. I don't blame you for the confusion.
So Coffee Talk is, I don't know, I wouldn't really call it a barista sim. I mean, you make some coffees, but it's, there are 3 ingredients. It's not like Cooking Mama or something where you need to juggle a whole restaurant. But you're a barista in a small coffee shop in, where else? Seattle. And you're living in a world where there are multiple different magical races. There are elves, there's succubi, trolls, some sort of water.
Orcs.
They're orcs, not trolls. They're orcs. Orcs, some sort of water spirits. They're cat people, humans, vampires, werewolves. Pick a thing, it's probably there. And you get all these disparate, fantastical creatures coming into your coffee shop, and you talk things out with them, help them with their problems, and serve them delicious hot beverages.
Yep, that's pretty much the long and the short of it. The gameplay encompasses simply making drinks. People will come into your shop. They will ask you for a beverage. You assemble that beverage by combining up to 3 ingredients. The base of the drink will always be either coffee, tea, green tea, cocoa, or milk. So there are 5 bases. And then on top of those, you can add additives like mint, honey, ginger, lemon. And depending on which combinations you use, like you can add milk to the teas or add milk to the coffee or the hot cocoa. Depending on how you assemble things, you can get different drinks. So like, for example, an espresso is coffee, coffee, coffee. A latte is coffee, milk, milk. And then you have other levels of option. And the order is significant. You will get something different if you do coffee, ginger, mint than you would if you do coffee, mint, ginger. So it's kind of base, primary, secondary. But I have now described the entirety of the gameplay, is just combining those different things and then listening to people talk. There are no dialogue choices in this game. You are mostly just controlling the events slightly based on whether you screw up people's orders or not. And I assume that there are some orders where if you get them wrong, it changes the story a little bit.
Yeah, there are at least a couple.
It doesn't come up very often. So what did we name our baristas?
I was playing myself.
My choice for a name is usually Dink Meeker. He's my favorite character from Ender's Game, so I just use his name.
My barista's name was Barista.
Just good choices all around. I'm proud of us.
I didn't realize that when I picked that was supposed to be a human name. I thought it was just like your title. Like, I don't know. I'm running this coffee bar. I didn't think that it was going to be something where people knew who the hell I was.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was like a bar situation.
You actually have a lot of dialogue in this game.
You do.
Like a weird amount for something that I was doing as self-insert, and I don't know if I would react in certain ways, but whatever, it's role-playing.
Yeah, your character is basically tending bar, and it's a very unique setup for the bar because you're basically a coffee shop that's open at midnight. Like you're a super duper late cafe basically, and you only serve drinks. There's no food and there's no alcohol. So there's a very specific crowd that is coming to get caffeine at midnight. It seems as though the people who want to do that are all game developers and authors and developers of other types of things. So what did we make of the crowd that is coming in?
It's like you said, they're all sort of weirdly part of this creative freelancer-y sort of economy. Like nobody's working in a factory. You have an author, a designer, a model. One guy works in hospital administration. He's sort of the outlier there. and then multiple gaming people.
There's a cop.
Oh yeah, there is a cop. That's true. We should talk about the cop too in this political climate we find ourselves in. But we'll table that for now. It's really sort of like a halcyon look at like how the creative economy ideally would work for some people.
Yeah, you're basically setting up this environment where a bunch of creative folk befriend each other and network for the most part. Like Freya, who is your regular, she is a freelance writer for a local newspaper and also an aspiring author, is basically hanging out in your bar, getting a bunch of stories from people. She's Billy Joeling it. She's listening to people's problems, scribbling down notes, and just like, you fuckers, I'm going to make money off of you someday. So she's Billy Joeling it, and you have a bunch of people kind of coming into your cafe, just talking about their problems and trying to work stuff out. But they're all they're modern day blue collar jobs in some way. It feels like Cheers if everyone was a freelancer. And I don't know necessarily what to do with that. It feels like this game is maybe a little bit more inside baseball than most other games we've played. I guess for a cafe, this is the crowd that might come in. It's open during the time when bars would be open, so I would guess that a bunch of nerdy folks who like coffee and tea would be showing up here. And it's funny because a lot of the characters who show up are either underage so that they can't go to the bars, and that's why they're in your cafe, or they are deliberately looking for places that are quiet. So your cafe is the place that they go to because almost no one's ever there. You have at most, I think, 4 people at once. So everyone's just kind of coming in for quiet discussion.
It does seem like slightly exclusionary in its way, though. Like in sort of this shifting from the creative economy. Like especially, so there's a whole bunch of very fancy drinks that you make, right? Like things I've never heard of, which is cool, right? Like it's interesting to find out about these new drinks. Like if your point is a coffee sim, everybody just can't have black coffee. But it reminded me something that this late 19th, early 20th century economist, Veblen, he actually came up with the phrase conspicuous consumption. So it's a point he made about taste. So like it takes both time and money to develop what people would call good taste, right? Like if you want to be known as a wine connoisseur, you need to spend the time and money to drink and learn about wine. So it's in a certain sense indicative of disposable income. And I found myself wondering about that, about the coffee shop too. Like if some of these drinks indicate people with the time and money to learn about fancy coffee.
Yeah, and I think there are definitely coffee snobs or drink snobs among your people who are coming to your shop. Like Myrtle, who's an orcish game developer. She often orders very specific South Asian drinks for the most part, like Te Tarik, which I had never heard of before. Her and Aqua, who's a mermaid, both of them will order very specific drinks. There's also Hendry, who's kind of an older cat man who worked in the music industry. He'll also have very specific milk drinks that he wants that I had never heard of. But for the most part, the only thing where conspicuous consumption I think gets challenged in this game is that your barista does not charge a high fee and every drink is the same price.
Yeah, that's a good point. Which nobody ever pays, so we don't know what that price is, but that's sort of irrelevant.
Yeah. And it makes me think that if anything, the conspicuous part for me was the barista. Like, are they independently wealthy? It felt like this person had rented this space and then was just giving out drinks because they wanted to be a chill hipster, is what I felt like in my playthrough.
Yeah, money is sort of like irrelevant in the entire game, which is, it's nice. It's pleasant. It makes it more enjoyable, but it is sort of ridiculous.
Otherwise, we'd be shaking down
Freya?
Yeah. She never pays.
Can we talk about the shop itself for a second?
Yeah, of course.
So another thing I thought about while playing this game was there's this sociology concept called the third place. It came up by this guy, let me find his first name, Ray Oldenburg. So third places are basically we have our homes, which are our first places, and our workplaces, which are our second places. So third places are basically environments, public spaces where people can gather and get together. So his examples are churches, cafes, clubs, libraries, bookstores, parks, that sort of thing. So these third places have 8 characteristics. They're neutral ground, right? You have no obligation to be there. They're a leveler, so they put basically everybody on the same status. Conversation is the main activity. They're accessible and accommodating to most people. They have regulars, people who show up fairly consistently. They have a low profile, right? There's not a lot of extravagance. They're sort of homey. It's a playful mood, right? The conversation doesn't get too serious or tense. And it's a home away from home, right? There's warmth, there's belonging. Everybody sort of feels that they can go there, they belong there. And I think the cafe is meant to embody one of these third places, basically a social leveler where people can mingle away from just work or, sitting at home in their own houses, which there might be a tension with the fact that it's a video game. We'll set that aside maybe for now.
I agree. And both of us have worked at third places. What did you think about that?
I agree with that. There's like a game term for this. I was trying to look through my notes to see if I can find it. I believe it's the same, there's the same concept. I think it was Jesper Juul, actually, who was talking about, not even video games. It was just games in general as this, median place where people can come together and, collaborate. It's like the concept of the magic circle. Any place where you can go and just kind of have a casual time. And then once you are done with video games or tabletop or whatever, you then leave and then you go back to your daily lives. So it's kind of like this separate thing. So I thought that was relevant here. We have this cafe where people just sort of congregate. Gino and I have done the game shop, so we sort of know that environment.
Yeah, and I think that they do a really good job of having that one regular who's always there, who kind of makes the whole thing feel much more alive in some way, or much more homey.
Mm-hmm.
Freya kind of being the constant who's always there and who's down to talk with whoever is kind of always a plus in any conversation she's involved in. I found that in similar places, in game shops I've gone to and other places like that, having that regular who is good-natured and able to get along with move between groups and get along with multiple people usually facilitates the overall growth of a space. And if your regulars are closed off or cliquey, it can have the opposite effect. So I thought representing that person, and I think to a certain degree, that was our professional role as employees at the store, was to be that person who was always there, who was always going to be relatively kind and open to everyone and make sure that people of different groups could get along and mingle. The barista plays that role, and I think Freya does as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they do a pretty good job of kind of showing a number of different personality types of people who would show up.
So there's this book, it's called Bowling Alone. I forget the author's name right now. I should have looked it up. But it's about sort of how social capital, this sort of connection, is declining in modern society. But one of the points he makes is that there are basically two types of social capital. There's bridging, in which different groups come together and sort of mingle, and there's bonding, which takes existing groups and makes them even more sort of insular as group members bond together. And I think here you can see that bridging taking place as opposed to the bonding. It's not so much that you have an existing group that becomes more cliquish, but rather you're bringing in new members from outside the group. And it's really this bridge. I mean, they're both important in their way, but it's sort of this bridging that we're increasingly losing.
Yeah, so Bowling Alone, The Collapse and Revival of American Community is by Robert D. Putnam.
Thank you. Good assist, Gino.
This is what I'm here for. Yeah, so given the setting, we've gone over, it's kind of this third place, we've got all these different characters. We haven't really gone over the fact that most of these characters are mystical creatures. What did we think of the choice to set this in Seattle in what is basically modern day, but then decide, poof, magical creatures exist and they are freelance web designers?
I was into it. That's kind of my jam. So I'm all about the fantasy, in my writing and in my game design. So I would probably the target audience for this. But I can see that there's some world building hoops that you need to jump through that are kind of weird for a coffee simulator game.
Yeah, I'm a sci-fi guy. It appealed to me in its way as well. I'm all about aliens, robots, those sorts of things. But it did seem a little on the nose when Freya is sort of talking about the book she wants to write, which would have only humans. There'd be no other sort of magical creatures. And I forget if it's the barista who says it, but they basically say no other creatures. They probably have no racism or prejudice or anything like that. Sort of long pause, turn to the camera.
Mm-hmm.
If the idea is if all these different magical creatures can all get together and be friends in this coffee shop, why can't we? We're all human. It's a little precise.
Yeah, I liked when Freya floats that idea for her book. I think one of the people is that sounds kind of racist.
Yeah, it's true.
You're imagining a world where none of these other races exist? That's weird. And she's like, no, it's not about getting rid of all of you people. It's about showing that even if it was just people, we'd all still be racist.
Which is better somehow, I guess.
Yeah. Her book idea is steal stories from coffee shop, whitewash, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And, depending on how the game goes, maybe her book's good, maybe it's not. But there are only a few times when the supernatural aspects of these characters really come up. The very first, and I feel it's something that comes up in like the first dialogue in the first conversation in the game, is Bailey's an elf is dating Lua, a succubus, and Bailey's family is super racist, and so he has been hiding his girlfriend from them, and Lua, her family, thinks that elves are intolerant, so she's been hiding her boyfriend from them, and they've been together for 10 years, and now they're trying to decide whether Bailey should abandon his family to be with Lua. But turns out, for elves, if you are disowned by your family, you lose your immortality.
Dun, dun, dun.
And also your allowance, and he's a freelance web developer, so it would be bad. But other than that, like, there's a werewolf who has werewolf problems. I think that's kind of it, though, in terms of any of the characters. Oh, there's also Neil, who's an alien.
Space person. Well, he's not even really. He's a space thing.
He's a space thing that wants to bone.
Can we talk about Neil, though?
Sure.
Yes.
Neil's such a weird character. He is an alien who comes from somewhere really far away, is all he says. And he just wants to breed so he can make a superhero.
Well, we don't know. We don't find out some stuff until New Game Plus. So
that's as far as we know in the regular game, I think. Right?
In regular game, we just know he wants to get it in.
If you get the drinks right, but you have to guess pretty well.
Huh.
Yeah, there are times when Neil will say, give me anything because I can't taste. And if you give Neil the right drink, they will tell you what their mission is.
They can taste.
See, I had help for that one.
Okay.
I had heard one instance where you have to make this drink completely right, otherwise you won't get something, and so I guess I got the assist on that, and then I heard why he was there.
Yeah, Neil, named after Neil Armstrong. His visual representation is a spacesuit with stars where the face should be.
Which is pretty cool.
It is. Neil is basically coming to your cafe to learn how people... The first time he shows up, he's there to meet Urukai69, which is someone who, I guess on fake Tinder, he connected with, and he's apparently just been getting ghosted over and over and over again.
Not by ghosts, by actual dates.
Yeah, by actual dates. No, Urukai69 doesn't show up, so he accidentally hits on Myrtle, and she does not take kindly to it.
Are Myrtle and Aqua supposed to be read as a couple?
I think by the end of it, yeah.
It seemed pretty clear to me. So Myrtle wasn't having it on multiple levels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, by the end of it, it seems that I think Myrtle and Aqua are a couple. It seems like Hyde and Gala, the werewolf and the vampire, might be a couple.
Yeah, he did buy him handcuffs. Kinky handcuffs.
Fuzzy handcuffs.
In that end scene, yep.
And then Lua and Bailey. So it's everyone couples up, pretty much, except Georgie, the cop, and Hendry and his daughter. What's his daughter's name? The pop star? Rachel. So were there any of these stories that we thought jumped out? I mean, I think some of them are interesting, but none of them read as particularly unique.
Rachel, the pop star story, that one was sort of fairly obvious what was going to happen. And it's basically like she's, 18?
Yep.
Naive girl, tries to make it as a pop star, gets involved with a whole bunch of shady and, as we can probably predict, sexually exploitative managers. Her dad tries to protect her and it creates a rift. I mean, it was nice that it worked out in the end, but I don't think anyone was particularly surprised by the turn that story took.
Yeah, and Gala the werewolf, who's like hired muscle, who has trauma that he's not dealing with because he's not been treated as an emotional being for a long time, meets Hyde, the vampire, the snooty vampire, and then they become unlikely friends. I think Hyde and Gala are the most interesting characters to me. And they're, I think, the two characters who also interact with the most groups that are not, their canonical pair.
Yeah,
so I think that
Hyde's definitely involved with the other characters as well. In thinking about Hyde and thinking about the elf, I got really hung up on the whole long lifespan immortality thing. Like the fact that wealth would become so concentrated in the hands of these immortal beings that like ultimately humans would remain poverty stricken for their entire short lives. I was just thinking of like what the tax implications must be like to deal with this lifespan disparity.
Yeah, there was that, and there's also like a fury sedative for werewolves so that werewolves don't murder people when the moon is out. There's like this running storyline that you can see in the newspaper every day that says like, fury sedatives have been banned. Werewolves are clamoring for them because they need their drugs so that they don't kill people during the full moon. Allegories is what I'm saying. They're allegories in this game.
There's a zombie virus mentioned really early on that is never mentioned again, I think. There's a Atlantean society of merfolk who want us to stop putting trash in the water.
And they want to immigrate to the land, but the government agency, Fire, won't let them come because they're the immigration enforcement.
Fire. That's, I mean, again.
What's the deal with that Fire guy that you meet who comes after Neil? We only see him the one time, right?
Yeah, and I mean, it's just because Neil he's an illegal alien.
I just said I didn't know when that was the end of it.
You're not allowed to rat him out.
There aren't really many choices here.
There's no dialogue choices.
I really felt like if an alien shows up to your cafe and says he's looking to bone down with anything that will move and have him, maybe you report him to Fire. I don't know.
You would report him?
He seemed very sketchy.
Yeah, he's a little weird. This could just be like in the same way that you would report an invasive species.
Yes.
This might be a situation where you need to.
Yeah, look, if I saw kudzu growing on the side of the road, I would do something about it.
I can't believe you guys are fucking narcs.
Fair
Earth
enough.
First.
I mean, he wants to help us.
We find out.
We find out eventually.
Ashery's creepy for like multiple days.
Only, 1.5 times, and then you can learn it when you give him a drink.
I mean, he asks to impregnate like 3 of your regulars.
Yeah, it's a little weird the first time around.
It's a bit much. Thank goodness he and Rachel are never in the same place at the same time.
Oh, God. Thank goodness they didn't write that scene in.
Well, they did both end up at Coachella, though.
Oh, yeah.
Names in this game.
Yeah, a lot of good names. I think that most of the storylines hold up. They're worth seeing. I'd like to talk about the secret ending, because there are multiple endings to this game.
Sure.
If you haven't played Coffee Talk, I mean, it came out this year, so check it out if you can. I don't think we've spoiled anything major. From here on out, we will go into Spoiler Town, because the endings of this game, I think, are pretty interesting. So if you play through it the first time, you will basically end up in a situation where everyone's storylines resolve, like the characters that are supposed to be together end up together. The characters who are not, they kind of go on their separate way. And Freya, who's been working on a novel, her novel will not sell well. She will publish it and she'll end up back in freelancing. But after all of the credits, you get a post-credit sequence where Neil comes back. And Neil no longer looks like an astronaut. He looks like a doctor, which he's like, yeah, I talk like a normal person now. And I found that this form is way better for picking up chicks. He looks like a handsome doctor. And he talks to your barista and says, hey, I noticed that you're like me, or I noticed something odd about you. And it's implied that your barista is not human, and you never see yourself. So it's unclear what your character's race is. But as you talk to Neil, Neil will ask, do you ever slip up? And your character says, yeah, I had a slip up on the first day, and then the third day, and then the 8th day. But most of the time, I managed to not have any slip ups. And so if you play through the game again, you'll have these exchanges where everything is the same, except for a brief moment, your character will say something that implies that they'll jump the gun on something that they shouldn't already know, which seems to imply that your character is a time traveler in some way. And as you play through this second playthrough, it becomes clearer and clearer that your character has time traveled or has a knowledge of what's going on before it happens. And then if you complete the game, it's revealed that your character is Neil's child with superpowers, basically.
Bum, bum, bum.
Neil got it on.
Good job, Neil. Or I guess Dad?
Yes.
Nice.
So that twist, I mean, it takes 5 minutes to get to that twist. But I think that the really interesting part about it is what having the time travel story does to Freya. In the original playthrough, Freya, her book gets greenlit, but it sells like shit. It's not very good. In the second playthrough, you end up having... She figures out that you're a time traveler, basically. She figures that out. And she weaves that into her novel. with subtle hints that the main character is a time traveler, and she tells you, like, she gives you the manuscript to her book, and the barista is like, huh, so you made the barista a time traveler, huh? And she's like, yeah, but I thought it should be like a subtle little hint thing. And then in the post-credit sequence, instead of Freya's book selling like garbage and then her having to go work back at the newspaper again, she instead sells a bajillion copies and becomes a renowned author because of that slight tweak to the story.
They make it into a movie too, or at least talks are in the works.
Well,
yeah.
I don't think this is because of the New Game Plus aspect, because I knew this, and I didn't really read that last section that closely on the New Game Plus because I was like, oh, it's all the same, and I skipped it. So I knew that it was made into a movie and all that. I don't know why that is, though. There is a time when she's tired.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that the trigger?
That's the change.
Yeah. What'd you give her?
Oh, I gave her coffee the first time.
Gino,
Okay, so
you fool.
If you give her coffee that one time, she writes a terrible manuscript, but if you let her sleep, she writes a best-selling novel.
Yeah.
That's the difference?
That's all it takes.
Aw.
You gotta give her like a sleepy time drink. It's something with milk. I don't remember the rest. And then you get the good end.
Oh, really? I thought that what was going on there was that the subtle hint, that little twist in the story, made her novel that much more interesting, and so that is the reason why it was getting optioned. I didn't realize that was the ramification of the trick.
Well, it's still the twist that makes it get picked up. It's just she doesn't do that time travel bit if you give her the espresso.
Does she still do the time travel bit?
No, she only does the time travel bit in the New Game
If you
She
give her the
figures
sleep
out
time
that
bit.
you are a time traveler.
Yes, by sleeping somehow.
Huh.
Okay, because I kind of thought that the game had an interesting little mirroring of what was going on with it, because that time travel bit is really only thrown in at the last second. It's a New Game Plus thing to add a little bit of value to the game. I thought the game was fine before that, and then once that twist happened, I thought, okay, now this is a little bit more interesting. It's a little bit better now that I know this. And I thought that it was mirrored then in the novel. Like, hey, we just added this little thing at the very end, and that little tiny twist took this thing from a C to an A. And I thought the game was critiquing itself, kind of. But I guess not. I guess I was wrong.
I was just
That
generally
would have been
annoyed.
sick, though.
That would have been cool. I was generally annoyed by the twist, like just because I don't know, did everything have to work out for everybody? Like I interned at a book publishing company for a very short and terrible 3 months, but like 90% plus of the books they publish lose money and do nothing, and like they just hit on a few winners that pay for all these losers. So like the odds that her book would get picked up and movie-sized are vanishingly small. I guess somebody has to succeed, but I don't know. It didn't have to be Freya.
Well, here's,
Yeah.
I think, what the twist was. Because at the end, you meet up with Neil again in the same doctor form. And he's like, so what's your angle to all this? And you're like, well, I had to be here to make all these things work out. And so you are like trying to make the world better. And that's why you are like not charging people for drinks, talking to all these people about like their problems, is because you like knew this is what you had to do in order to make yourself, you know?
Yeah, you needed to start this bar so that when Neil came to Earth, he would get some game
Yeah, pretty much.
and would be able to get it in.
Seems like kind of a waste of superpowers.
Well, you wouldn't exist if you didn't.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I don't. You never find out who your mom is. You know, maybe it's Freya. Maybe it's one of these other characters. Who
Whoa.
knows?
Neil loved her though. We know that.
Yep.
She thought he was creepy.
Everybody thought Neil was.
Yeah.
I mean, he drinks with his finger.
I thought that was neat.
I thought it was neat, but none of the other people in the bar thought it was neat. But yeah, I think that little twist that your character is trying to make the world a better place through an open late coffee shop was interesting. But yeah, it wrapped it up.
Yeah, it got pretty tidy. I'd like to make one more point about the coffee shop.
Go ahead.
So I think it's important that it's sort of like an indie space. So there's this famous, I forget when it came out. I think it was a few years ago now. But there's this famous article. It's called Welcome to Airspace by Kyle Chayka. I want to say Chayka. And here's the subtitle sort of explains the point. How Silicon Valley helps spread the same sterile aesthetic across the world. So I think part of the reason these third places are sort of evaporating is that chain spaces have sort of supplanted a lot of them. So you don't really have mom and pop coffee shops anymore. You have more Starbucks, really. And I don't think chains satisfy those 8 characteristics of third places in the same way. So, I mean, it could just be that, indie coffee shop in Seattle, like it fits. But I do think there's something that fosters commingling in a space that's yours between the owner and the regular. It's theirs in a way that a Starbucks can be.
Yeah, because no matter how much you like the Starbucks barista, I don't think anyone views the Starbucks as their project. It's always a way station for the most part.
Yeah.
You can't make it your own. You can't have your own rules. You can't have your own special drinks. The corporate aesthetic and the corporate demands homogenize everything, which is, to some degree nice. You'll always get the same experience whether you're in Starbucks, Seattle, Houston, or Tokyo. But it does definitely take away the sense of hominess that you feel in places that are trying to get by on their own, for sure. Did either of you try endless mode?
I did for a bit.
What even is it? I didn't try it.
You're just
You
making
just make drinks
drinks
as fast as you can.
Oh, so there's like a time trial element there.
Yeah, pretty much. It's not particularly challenging. Basically, it starts off like make a drink with these 3 ingredients, and then it's like make drinks that are these flavors, and so it gets a little bit more intense as time goes on. But I just did it until I got the achievement to get 50, and then I was all set. I got bored around like 40, and then I had my girlfriend help me make the last couple of drinks.
Yeah, it starts out with like make this specific drink with these specific ingredients, and they tell you the ingredients, then make these specific named drinks, and then make me a drink that's warm, or make me a drink that's very bitter, and those are just like look at the sliders and see whether they go up or down.
I never felt pressured by like the time. It adds on like 30 seconds whenever you make a drink, right? And so you have like 2 minutes. So until like the very end, you could just make the drinks and then you'll keep going. There's no reason to do it.
Yeah, I found that I was gaining time for most
Yeah.
of it. Like I was in no jeopardy of running out of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to the gameplay, so having a mode that is just the gameplay, it's not the attraction. Though I did enjoy like learning about different types of teas and coffees because I am a tea drinker, and I have kind of a morning ritual where I'll make myself tea, and sometimes I'll add a little honey or I'll add a little lemon, and getting to do that in a game was pretty fun. It was something that I did not expect.
Yeah, I found myself Googling a lot of the drinks, just being like, ooh, like what's this in real life, just to see what they were.
Yeah. Some of the ones that they request in the time trial sound fucking gross.
I mean, most of the milk ones seem gross to
Yeah.
me. I don't know.
Like, give me milk with lemon and like mint or something.
That's like halfway to yogurt.
Yeah, like why do you want this? Okay, I
Yeah,
guess.
especially, I don't like warm milk. So, like, when people order triple warm milk, that's why they have the cat people.
Yep,
Because someone had to order the warm milk stuff.
they really like their milk too.
I used to do that. So in undergrad, we could use our like free money to get drinks at the coffee shop, but I didn't like coffee, so I would just go and get glasses of whole milk sometimes.
Yum.
Yep, it was good.
Ugh.
Or like cereal, or just like to drink milk.
Yeah, I like milk a lot.
That's
I used
fair.
to get it in restaurants, and people look at you real weird when you order milk with dinner.
Yeah.
A nice steak dinner with a glass of milk.
Full cow. I'm eating the meat. I'm drinking the milk.
Ah, I hate it. I hate this picture you put in my head. Ugh.
I used to drink strawberry milk with dinner when I was a kid.
Strawberry. Chocolate milk is the only acceptable milk varietal.
Yeah, I was a strawberry kid.
Ugh. Was it Nesquik at least?
Yeah, it was Nesquik strawberry syrup.
Okay, good. That's acceptable.
I drank orange juice for every meal until my like teens. So
That is intense. That's a lot of vitamin C.
Sounds bad for your stomach.
I don't know. I don't drink orange juice anymore, so
Pulp or
It's
no
a lot
pulp?
of acid.
no pulp.
Good. At least you picked the good orange juice.
I think I got pulp like once or twice and then felt tricked.
Pulp is for deviants.
I was like, what happened? Someone screwed up when they were making my orange juice. They left bits in it.
There was an error in processing.
It's like, yeah, I'll give him some juice, but I'll be damned if I'm going to squeeze all of it.
Yep. There's been a mistake, sir. Please. At least orange juice instead of grapefruit juice. Grapefruit juice is a godforsaken thing.
Bad.
It's too bitter. Too much. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've talked about coffee as much as we can talk about coffee. Or coffee talk. Whatever. Regardless, thank you, listeners, for listening. You can get in touch with the show at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We've got our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. You can also support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens. Em, it's your turn to pick. What game are we playing next?
I hope you guys are ready to gotcha, because we're playing Genshin Impact.
Can you give us a spelling?
Genshin Impact.
Is this on Steam?
No, it is. You could just download it from the internet. It has its own installer.
Wait, the internet?
Oh, no.
Take a step back. What?
You know where the websites live?
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah,
Got it.
this has just a regular old installer. You do not have to go through Steam. Genshin Impact. It's like Breath of the Wild, except if you were playing as a bunch of anime characters.
I like this promotional art.
Yeah, and you can get more anime characters by in-game currency, or you can spend actual money. Yay.
Just tell me if this is correct.
Yes.
I could get this from genshin.mihoyo.com.
Is that the website? Genshin
I just want to make sure.
Impact.
Because this seems rife for scamming.
No, that's it. That's correct.
Okay, good.
And you can get it on PS4, iOS, Android, or Windows. So if you want to play it on your phone, you can also play it there.
Do saves jump between the platforms?
Yes, if your account is the same, like you can connect it to your Facebook and such.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you can do that.
Can I connect it to my LinkedIn?
I mean, you
my
could try.
professional network to see how
Maybe-
good
You can connect it to your Vimeo.
I wouldn't, but you could.
just straight to my PayPal.
They would prefer if you did that.
Yes, please. You could also connect it to your Twitter. You could make an account on mihio.com.
Okay. Do I want to play this on the Switch or the computer?
I don't think it's out on Switch yet.
It said on their website.
Is it?
PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, Android, iOS, Microsoft Windows.
Oh, I think it's best on the Switch probably, now that I think about it. But
Okay.
I play it on computer, and I also have it on my Android, so I can take it on the go.
Is there an end to this game?
I mean, it just got released maybe 2 weeks ago, so
Okay.
it's going to be continuously expanded upon. I think that we should at least get to the end of there's 3 prologue sections. If you get to the end of the 3rd prologue section,
Okay.
you'll know story-wise when that is. There is a big boss fight, so I think you'll get the full experience by then.
All right. Sounds good. So next up, we're getting gotcha'd and playing Genshin Impact. Thank you, Pete.
Yep, excited to talk about and continue to not drink coffee.
Thank you, Em.
I enjoyed this game. It was much more casual than I expected.
And thank you, listeners. Till next time, peace.
Break it down like